Imagine stepping into any organization. It could be large, it could be small, and being able to almost instantly predict its future.
Right, like can you see the signs? Can you tell if it's on a path to, say, chaos, or if it's set up for real, continuous growth?
Exactly. And the answer almost always hinges on this one, sort of invisible but absolutely essential force.
Management.
Management. We often have this lazy definition of it, right? We just ask, so who's the boss?
But that's so shallow. I
Wow.
mean, that definition barely scratches the surface. The real concept of management is, well, it's far more complex than just a title on an org chart.
And it's crucial, absolutely crucial to success in any human endeavor, really.
It's the difference between a perfectly conducted orchestra and just a lot of people playing loud instruments at the same time.
That's a great analogy.
When we talk about management, we aren't just talking about delegating tasks. I mean, we are talking about a multifaceted discipline that bridges sophisticated theory, intensely personal skill, and continuous social interaction.
So our deep dive today is designed to be a shortcut for you. We're going to try and transform this vague, kind of nebulous concept into clear, actionable knowledge.
And we're going to do that by looking at the core meanings, the objectives, and the internal structures of managing an enterprise, but through 4 distinct, really powerful foundational lenses.
And here's why you should care immediately.
Yeah.
By understanding these core concepts, you could almost call it the DNA of effective management. You gain an analytical framework,
A framework to recognize patterns.
patterns of success or failure, instantly. Whether you're, say, an investor assessing a new company, a professional looking to move up, or you're just trying to figure out why your local nonprofit is struggling.
You'll have that internal template to diagnose the organization's health.
Exactly. So let's not waste any time. We'll start with those foundational views. So our first lens, it treats management as a fundamental activity. When you boil away all the titles and, the PowerPoint slides, what is a manager fundamentally doing?
The core action is deceptively simple. On the surface, it is the art of achieving specific goals through the coordinated efforts of other people.
So the key is through other people.
That's the key. But if we unpack that a little, we see that business management is a highly specialized human activity. It's focused intensely on directing and controlling the entire organization and all of its complex operations.
So the manager doesn't just supervise. You used a word earlier that I loved. They catalyze.
They catalyze exactly. They are the essential integrator.
I love that idea of the integrator because it immediately elevates the role from just, supervision to something more like synthesis.
Right.
The manager sits at this nexus, responsible for combining all the necessary elements into a functional, working whole.
And that naturally leads us to these 5 essential inputs, the famous 5 M's of management.
What do those means? And why are they considered the universal building blocks of any enterprise?
Well, they're considered universal because every single manager, whether they're running a corner shop or a massive multinational corporation, must centralize and combine them into an effective operating unit. The manager's fundamental task is optimization of these 5.
Okay, so let's break them down. What's the first M?
The first, and arguably the most important, is manpower, the human element. Some of the older texts call it men, but manpower is more inclusive and accurate. It's your people.
Your people. The skills, the talent, the morale, everything that comes with the human side of the equation.
Everything. The second is materials. These are the raw goods, the components, whatever physical things you need to create your product or service.
Okay, manpower and materials. What's number 3?
The third M is machinery. This is the physical equipment, the infrastructure, the technology, the tools you use to transform the materials.
So you have the people, the stuff, and the tools to work with the stuff.
Exactly. The fourth M is methods. These are the established procedures, the systems, the workflows, the how you do what you do.
The process. This is where efficiency really comes in, I'd imagine. A bad method can waste great people, materials, and machinery.
Absolutely. And finally, the fifth M is money. The capital, the financial resources. Without it, you can't pay for the other 4.
Manpower, materials, machinery, methods, and money. The power of that framework is that it shows you exactly where an organization might be weakest.
It's a diagnostic tool.
Right. You can have unlimited money and the latest machinery. But if your methods are, say, completely outdated, or more importantly, your manpower is alienated or improperly trained,
The whole system just grinds to a halt. It doesn't matter how good the other parts are.
the manager's job then is to find that sweet spot where all 5 of those inputs are maximized at the same time. That sounds like an impossible job.
It often is, which is why we have to look at the key implications of seeing management as an activity. Because the manager is constantly, battling to integrate these 5 M's, their role is inherently, first and foremost, interpersonal.
They can't operate in a vacuum.
Not at all. The job demands continuous, often high-stakes interaction with individuals, with teams, with suppliers, with customers. It's a human job before it's anything else.
Which means, and this is the second implication, it is automatically a group activity.
Yes. Management isn't just about optimizing your own schedule or your own output. It is the coordination of incredibly diverse efforts.
You're taking the specialized contributions of many individuals, the accountant, the engineer, the marketer, and you're unifying them.
You're trying to get them into a cohesive whole, making sure they are all, rowing in the same direction.
And that direction brings us to the third implication, which is that it's fundamentally goal-oriented.
Right. This interaction, this coordination, it's not arbitrary. It's not just activity for the sake of activity.
Every managerial action, every budget decision, every single performance review has to be aimed squarely at achieving defined, common objectives.
And if the activity doesn't measurably move the group toward that stated goal, it is, by definition, an inefficient management practice. It's waste.
I think the fourth implication is one that gets overlooked a lot when we just talk about delegation. Management is heavily a decisional activity.
Oh, massively so. Managers aren't just messengers communicating orders down the chain of command.
No, they're constantly on the receiving end of a huge volume of information market data, employee feedback, supply chain problems.
A fire hose of information.
Exactly. And they have to process it, make rapid decisions at every level, and then transmit new instructions just to keep the enterprise running.
The speed and the quality of that high-stakes decision-making, well, that's what defines a manager.
That holistic view really defines the doing of management. But okay, let's shift our lens. Let's look at the second foundational view. This one looks at management not as an action, but as a collective identity. Management as a group.
Yes. When you read in the news that management has decided to cut benefits, we all know what that means. We're using it as a collective noun.
And that group is actually vast. It encompasses everyone who performs a managerial task, from the most senior executive all the way down to the lowest level supervisor.
It is. It's a hierarchy. A collective noun, just like, say, the board of directors or a superintendent. However, in common practice, in everyday language, that collective noun often narrows.
It usually just means top management, right?
Exactly. That smaller group, the chief executives, the division heads, they are seen as the essential rulemaking and rule-enforcing body. They're the team responsible for the really high-level policy decisions and supervising the entire work of others.
And this structure, it inherently forms a chain of command, a clear hierarchy of authority. So managers at different tiers will have dramatically different scopes of power, but they're all united by one thing.
They all manage other people.
It's crucial then to understand how people get into this powerful collective group, because the background of a manager, I think, really dictates their priorities and their mindset.
It absolutely does. We can categorize the entry into this group into 3 pretty distinct paths.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first, and historically maybe the most common, are the family managers.
Right, so these are individuals who hold managerial positions primarily because they are the owners or they're relatives of the owners.
Their authority is derived from equity and from legacy, and because of that, they often prioritize things like long-term stability and tradition, maybe over short-term financial metrics.
You can contrast that pretty sharply with the rise of the professional managers.
A completely different breed. These are people appointed based solely on formal qualifications, that degree or diploma in management. They're hired experts.
And they're judged entirely on their technical and their administrative competence.
Yes, so they often prioritize efficiency, optimization, quarterly results, because their authority rests on performance, not on ownership. Their job depends on it.
And then there's a third category, which is particularly relevant in large public sector organizations all over the world. You have this category of appointed state managers.
What the source material refers to as civil servants. For a global audience, we mean highly skilled, non-political administrative experts. They're often drawn from prestigious national administrative services and assigned to manage public enterprises.
And they bring a totally different background, one that's focused on policy implementation and adherence to regulatory frameworks. It's a third distinct approach to managerial authority.
And regardless of their path to the executive suite, This collective management group has become an incredibly powerful and respected elite in modern society.
And this isn't just about salary, it's
What?
about impact.
Oh, completely. Their decisions, whether they're launching a new product line or closing a factory or investing heavily in R&D, these decisions affect the livelihoods of thousands, sometimes millions of people.
They're essential to national economic progress and social stability.
They were literally the people planning and piloting the economic engine.
So if that collective group is so powerful, how do they learn what to do? That shifts us very neatly to our third lens, management as a discipline.
Exactly. This is where the practical, often chaotic art of managing gets systematized, taught, and studied.
As a discipline, then, management is defined as a specialized branch of knowledge.
A systematized body of knowledge, correct. It comprises established principles, theories, and practices of administration. It's really matured into its own separate, growing field of study, usually housed within the social sciences.
It's actually astonishing how young this field is. You think about philosophy, which is millennia old, or physics, which has centuries of formalized study.
Management science really only formalized in the last century or so.
Yet its growth has been explosive. The global demand for management education, business schools, training programs, it's just insatiable.
And that demand is driven by the sheer complexity and the specialization required. Management as a discipline isn't one monolithic thing. It's broken down into several intensely specialized functional areas. We need specialists.
Right, so you have things like financial management,
Which deals with capital structure and investment. Then you have marketing management.
which focuses on satisfying customer needs.
You have personnel management, which we now often call human resources, managing the people. And then production management, which is concerned with converting inputs to outputs as efficiently as possible.
And each one of those areas is its own deep well of codified knowledge.
It is. And that segmentation proves the transferability of the knowledge.
How so?
Well, you can study financial management principles in a university setting, and then you can go apply them to a tech startup, a hospital, or a government agency.
So the core knowledge base, the discipline itself, travels across different sectors.
It does. And this systematized knowledge, this discipline, then informs our final foundational view, management as a process.
This one defines the fundamental, repeatable sequence of work that successful managers perform day in and day out.
If the activity is the art and the discipline is the knowledge, then the process is the procedural map.
It's the systematic flow of managerial functions. So what are the key stages in that flow?
It's a systematic series of interrelated and orderly functions, all performed in a predictable sequence. And it's designed to transform the organization's inputs into the desired result.
And we've all heard them, right? The famous core management functions are.
Planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling, sometimes called POSDC.
And while those 5 words can sound a bit technical or dry, the process itself has a profound social and economic link. It's not just a mechanical process.
Not at all. It involves a deep sense of social responsibility. It entails the effective and economic planning and regulation of all the operations.
To fulfill the proposed task, then, the manager has to navigate this continuous cycle of using judgment, making decisions, guiding, integrating, motivating, and supervising all the people involved.
That's right. The responsibility goes way beyond just hitting a number on a spreadsheet. It involves managing human interaction and human potential.
The implication of viewing management as a process is huge for understanding its scope. So first, we establish it's a universal process.
And this isn't just corporate speak, it's a reality. Every single organization, regardless of its size, its type, its mission,
A hospital, a tech company, a charity.
they all must plan, organize, staff, direct, and control. The methods might differ, but the function is invariant. It's always there.
Second, it is fundamentally a continuous process.
Right. Managers don't just plan once at the beginning of the year and then, dust off their hands and they're done.
The environment changes, so the planning has to be continuous, the organizing has to be continuous.
And controlling is a moment-to-moment necessity. It truly never ends.
Third, and this is a subtle but I think a really critical detail, it's an iterative process.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we often teach POSDC as this linear checklist, but it's actually nested.
Ah, I see. So to organize, you have to do some planning for the organization structure.
And you have to staff the people to do the organizing, and you have to direct that process. Every function is contained within the others.
It's like a fractal structure. That's a great way to put it.
And finally, it connects right back to that first view we talked about. It's a social process.
Because the entire flow relies on working with and through people. The manager has to understand motivation, communication, sociology.
So the inputs might be physical and financial, but the engine that makes the whole process run is purely human.
Exactly. By examining these four foundational views, activity, group, discipline, and process, we can move beyond the simple title of manager and really grasp the immense scope and weight of the function.
So now that we have a better handle on what management is and what it does structurally, let's talk about the ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
If the process is the map, what's the destination?
Right, what are we trying to achieve with all this?
And we've identified 8 key objectives that really define the holistic aims of any well-managed enterprise.
We have to start with the objective that often overshadows everything else: financial health and profitability.
The bedrock.
It has to be. Management must ensure the enterprise earns sufficient profits not just to survive, but to invest, to meet its operational needs, and to grow.
And this means relentlessly making the best possible use of those 5 M's we talked about.
To achieve maximum output at the absolute minimum cost, it's a constant push for efficiency.
And that profitability objective also has an external constituency: the investors.
Of course. Management must guarantee a reasonable return, whether that's in the form of dividends for shareholders or interest payments for lenders. If you fail this objective, your capital dries up very, very quickly.
Which naturally moves us to the second objective: future focus, prosperity, and growth.
Right. Management can't just manage for today's profit. The goal is continuous improvement, maximizing productivity, and securing maximum results through minimum effort and resources.
This objective is inherently strategic then. It's about building a stable foundation today that creates the conditions for business expansion and diversification tomorrow.
It requires a specific type of leadership, one that ensures stability for all the stakeholders while constantly searching for pathways to maximize that long-term prosperity.
Objective 3 is just vital in our current hyper-accelerated economy: adaptation, change, and innovation.
The external environment, technology, regulation, competition, it's in a state of continuous change. So management must act as the primary agent of that change within the organization.
It can't be reactive, it has to be proactive.
Exactly. This means continuous investment in research and development, in technological innovation, all to meet future uncertainties head-on. If an organization is managed just to maintain the status quo,
It's being managed for obsolescence.
it really is. But if they focus too much on the technology and the profit, they risk alienating their core engine.
Which brings us to Objective 4, development of people or human capital.
The foundational principle here is simple but profound. People are always more important than things.
Always.
So management has to mobilize and retain the best talent. This involves actively encouraging initiative, building technical competence, and providing genuine opportunities for training and for participation.
So the managerial environment has to be designed to foster human growth, making employees feel valued and invested, not just like cogs in a machine.
Precisely. Now, shifting to the internal culture, Objective 5 focuses on two sides of the same coin: discipline and morale.
How does management actively cultivate both of those, the hard rules and the soft engagement?
Well, discipline is cultivated through formal structure. That means exercising authority, having a clear assignment of responsibility, and implementing control procedures.
The hard side.
The hard side. Morale, however, is purely psychological. Management must motivate people through a strategic mix of financial and non-financial incentives to ensure they feel a genuine sense of achievement and high morale in a productive work environment.
You need the rules, but you also need the spirit.
You need both. That spirit often depends on the quality of the daily decisions being made, which leads to Objective 6. It governs the sheer cognitive load of the job, strategic foresight, and rightful decision-making.
Given that the quality of decisions really determines the future of the entire enterprise, managers have to strive to make the right call at the right time every single time.
The quality of that managerial judgment, particularly under pressure and with incomplete information, is probably the single greatest factor in success or failure.
An enterprise can have flawless systems, but if the managers consistently make poor strategic decisions.
The enterprise fails. It's as simple as that.
Okay, Objective 7 looks outward at reputation, improving public image.
Right. In a world of instant communication and social media, good management must maintain a sound public image.
But the interesting thing here is that they achieve this not primarily through expensive PR campaigns.
But through the efficient and smooth running of the business itself, image becomes a byproduct of better planning and effective control. You build a good reputation by being good, not just by saying you're good.
And finally, Objective 8 defines the organization's contribution back to society. Societal value, providing quality goods at fair prices.
This ensures that the community benefits from the enterprise's existence. Managers meet this aim by ruthlessly eliminating all waste and reducing production costs.
Which allows them to deliver better quality products affordably to the public. It closes the loop. Efficiency isn't just for profit, it's for public benefit.
It is.
That is a huge burden of responsibility balancing financial health with societal value and human development. It makes management sound less like a job and more like a calling.
It can be.
Now, let's transition from what management aims for to what management is. If we were to define its DNA, the core characteristics of this function, what are the non-negotiables?
We've touched on a lot of them, but they really bear a deeper conversation. First, and I think most essential, management is goal-oriented and purposeful.
It's an instrument.
It is an instrument designed solely to secure specific results, whether they're economic or social. Its existence is only justified by achieving its desired objectives.
This is why methods like management by objectives are so powerful, because they enforce that intense goal focus.
Right. Second, its applicability is absolute. Management is universal and all-pervading.
We've talked about this. It's required in every type of organization, from the largest corporation to a university or a government ministry.
And crucially, it exists at every single layer of the organizational chart, top, middle, and lower. No layer is excused from the act of managing.
Third, it is fundamentally a group activity.
The entire premise of management is the skillful coordination of individual efforts so they operate as a cohesive team. The moment a manager stops focusing on group contribution and teamwork.
They cease to be effective, they just become an individual contributor with a fancy title.
Precisely. Now, this group dynamic requires order, which leads to the fourth characteristic. Management is a system of authority.
It creates and enforces rules.
It has to. Without a clear chain of command and well-defined superior-subordinate relationships, decision-making becomes paralyzed. Authority is the framework that allows the group to move quickly and decisively.
Fifth, and this is tied directly to the group activity, it's a social process.
Managers are directing, regulating, and coordinating human efforts. The human factor is indispensable. Systems can be automated, they can be outsourced, but managing people requires human judgment and interaction.
Sixth, it has to react to the outside world. Management is a dynamic function.
It's continuously adapting policies and practices in response to changes in the external environment, the economy, politics, technology.
But it doesn't just react, right? Effective managers proactively try to modify the environment.
Yes, they do. Through lobbying, through innovation, by creating demand, they try to shape the environment to ensure their enterprise's success. It's a never-ending active cycle.
Okay, we also established earlier that it is simultaneously both an art and a science.
And that duality is its great strength and its great tension. It uses universal principles derived from observation, which is the science part.
But its success relies on the unique personal judgment and skill of the individual manager. That's the art.
The eighth characteristic clarifies its structure. Management is a distinct entity.
What do you mean by that?
The process of management, the planning, the organizing, and so on, is separate from the technical activities being managed.
Oh, I see. So managing a team of software engineers is a different skill than writing the software code itself.
Exactly. The managerial process is the superstructure that sits on top of the technical work.
Ninth, it's defined by its effect, not its physical presence. Management is intangible, but felt.
You can't see the management force itself, but you can certainly feel its results.
The smoothness of operations, the high profitability, the low employee turnover, the efficiency.
Or the lack thereof. If a company feels chaotic and dysfunctional, that's poor management being felt.
10th, and this is maybe the most powerful role, management is an integrating force.
This is where synergy happens. It has to reconcile individual goals with the non-human resources, ensuring that the total result achieved is truly greater than the sum of the individual contributions alone.
If one department succeeds at the expense of another, management has failed this objective.
It has. 11th, it's profoundly multidisciplinary. It isn't a standalone field.
Right, to be effective, management has to draw foundational knowledge from economics.
To understand scarcity and incentives, from sociology to understand group behavior.
From psychology to understand motivation, and even from anthropology to understand culture.
It is a truly applied discipline.
And finally, 12th, it's fundamentally creative.
I love this one. Management makes things happen that simply would not happen otherwise. Without effective management, those resources, the money, materials, and machinery, they just remain inert resources.
Management is the activator. It's the spark that makes them productive and molds them into value. That extensive list of characteristics really highlights the complexity. Now we have to dive into the most enduring debate about its nature. Is management a structured, predictable science? Or is it an intuitive, personal art? Or is it an elevated profession? Let's start by assessing management as a science.
Okay. When we apply the strict criteria for what makes something a science, management actually fulfills several of the requirements, which is what provides its knowledge base and its legitimacy.
So what's the first criterion it meets?
First, it has a systematized body of knowledge. It contains established, codified, basic principles and concepts. We can teach the theory of organizational structure or motivational models because they are organized, structured concepts.
And second, this body of knowledge wasn't just, conjured from thin air. It's built through observations and experiments.
Right. Management knowledge has been developed over decades by experts, by practitioners, by researchers, all through continued observation, careful analysis, and practical experience in actual organizational settings.
Third, it establishes clear cause and effect relationships. We can often predict outcomes based on certain managerial inputs.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The principle that dual subordination, having an employee report to two managers simultaneously, is an organizational flaw. It predictably leads to confusion and reduced efficiency. That predictability is scientific.
And fourth, its fundamental principles aim for universal validity. While context always matters, the core principles of, say, division of labor or clear communication are generally applicable across different cultures and different types of organizations.
We can test these principles, and we can verify their results, at least to a certain extent.
So, based on that, management is a science. However, and this is a very big however, this is where the crucial nuance comes in. Management is considered a social science.
It's the difference between physics and psychology.
Exactly. And that distinction is vital because it explains the limits of its predictability.
Right. If management were a pure science, a hard science, we could just input X, apply principle Y, and always get result Z. But we don't. Why not?
Because management deals primarily with human beings and their behavior. In a pure science, you can perform objective laboratory experiments under strictly controlled conditions. Gravity and chemical reactions are consistent and predictable.
But you cannot subject human behavior, motivation, and emotion to those same objective tests.
You just can't. If I launch a new product, I can predict its success mathematically based on market data. But if I launch a new performance management system, the psychological and sociological responses will vary wildly based on individual histories, trust in leadership, and the existing workplace culture.
So this makes management an inexact or soft science.
Correct. Its principles cannot always be regarded as fundamental truths with rigid universal application because of the inherent complexity and unpredictability of the human element. The science provides the map, but the human terrain is always shifting underneath it.
So the science gives us the rules, the formalized knowledge, the theory. That brings us to the application side of the coin. Management as an art. Where science is the knowledge, art is the skill.
And management absolutely fulfills the requirements of an art form because art involves the practical application of knowledge to achieve a specific result.
First, then, it requires practical knowledge.
Yes. Management is the art of betting things done through people, which means converting that theoretical scientific knowledge into concrete, goal-achieving action. You have to be able to do it, not just know it.
Second, art is inherently individual, and management relies heavily on personal skill.
So true. Every manager, even two managers using the exact same principles from a textbook, will have their own unique style, their own judgment, their own interpretation of a situation.
A great manager uses their personal flair and their experience to tackle problems. That's the definition of individual skill.
Third, management requires profound creativity. It is fundamentally result-oriented. It converts raw, inert inputs, money, materials into valuable, usable outputs.
That transformation process, achieving maximum productivity at the lowest cost, requires constant ingenuity and invention. It's not just the rote application of rules.
It's not. I often think of a chef. They know the science of cooking, the temperature, the chemical reactions of the ingredients. That's the management science.
But the great chef, the true artist, uses that knowledge with intuition, with timing, with personal judgment to create something exceptional.
And that mastery is achieved through the fourth point. Perfection through practice. Mastery is not innate.
No, it's honed. Continuous practice, making high-stakes decisions, and years of leadership allow an efficient manager to sharpen their skills.
And that enables them to convert crises and challenges into real opportunities. The more you practice the art, the better you become at interpreting the science.
So the two are completely inseparable. They have to go hand in hand. Science provides the knowledge, the blueprint, and art provides the skill and the execution. They are truly complementary forces.
Indeed. You could say that science without art is blind because it lacks practice, and art without science is fruitless because it lacks that foundational knowledge.
The complete manager possesses both, the theoretical depth and the practical mastery.
That's the ideal.
Now we come to the third category, management as a profession. This looks at whether management meets the high bar standards of the established professions, like medicine, law, or chartered accounting.
And on the surface, management has certainly adopted several professional features. First, it undeniably possesses specialized knowledge. It has a well-defined, codified, and transferable body of knowledge that requires focused study.
No question there. Second, it utilizes formal education and training.
Right. We have specialized management institutions all over the globe, business schools, that provide the necessary rigorous education. The very existence of the management consulting industry demonstrates that this is a recognized expertise.
And third, there is the growing service motive. Modern managers are increasingly expected to operate with a focus that goes beyond just maximizing owner profits.
There's a bigger expectation now to prioritize service to society, environmental responsibility, and community impact.
However, this is where the limitations start to emerge. We often say management has emerged as a profession, but it doesn't meet all the traditional legal criteria fully.
And the first major hurdle is the lack of a legally regulated statutory body.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, while large associations exist, like the All India Management Association or various regional bodies, they are not legally recognized or regulated statutory bodies with the power to license, mandate, or restrict practice.
Unlike the official bodies governing lawyers or doctors.
Exactly. Their power is often advisory, not a matter of absolute legal enforcement.
Furthermore, while most large companies adhere to an ethical code of conduct, this code isn't generally legally binding on all managers, particularly those operating outside of strict corporate roles.
Right. There are ethical expectations, but the lack of centralized legal enforcement means that the accountability differs significantly from, say, medical malpractice.
And finally, the most distinguishing limitation remains restricted entry.
Entry into a management career is not strictly limited to management graduates only.
Experience, entrepreneurial success, specific technical expertise, or even just ownership can override formal education requirements.
You cannot become a practicing lawyer without passing the bar exam, but you can certainly become a CEO without an MBA.
So management is a profession in its ideals, the knowledge base, the training, the service motive, but it remains an emerging one.
It's emerging because it lacks the strict legal restrictions on entry and practice that define the older, more established profession.
The complexity of management, this duality as art and science, and its ambitious objectives, all of it feeds into its profound, real-world impact. So let's detail why effective management is so critical, not just for the balance sheet, but for society as a whole.
Its importance really starts internally. The first outcome is the achievement of group objectives. Management is the coordinating force that takes highly specialized individual efforts,
Which might otherwise conflict.
and ensures they achieve mutual cooperation and coordination. It creates team spirit. It inspires individuals to make their collective best contribution towards that common goal.
The moment management disappears, the organization just breaks into factions or silos.
That's right. Management ensures that the highly specialized individuals don't become siloed, but remain unified by that central purpose.
Second, management guarantees maximum resource efficiency.
Sound management expertly mixes and utilizes all of the resources, men, money, materials, and machinery, in the right proportion.
By ensuring employees are trained and motivated to use physical resources optimally, management drives up productivity and profitability.
And simultaneously prevents waste.
Third, and this is critical for market survival, cost minimization.
In today's hyper-competitive global landscape, a business has to be able to supply its products and services at the lowest possible cost.
And management achieves this by implementing better planning, sound organizational structures, and effective control mechanisms.
All of which eliminate inefficiency at every single turn. That minimized cost is what allows the enterprise to successfully navigate cutthroat competition.
Fourth, management ensures survival and growth. The modern business environment is constantly being disrupted.
So managers have to continuously monitor and interpret these external changes, social, technological, regulatory, helping the enterprise adapt, meet threats, and seize emerging opportunities.
This adaptive role is key. Management is like the enterprise's immune system, ensuring continuity.
And they don't just absorb the shocks of uncertainty, they proactively position the company for expansion and diversification in the face of these constant external shifts.
Moving outward, the fifth importance is the contribution to a higher standard of living.
Good management benefits the entire community by raising the standard of living. By reducing operational costs and eliminating waste, they can provide better quality products and services to the public at the lowest possible price point.
This allows consumers to access better goods, which improves overall societal welfare.
It does. And finally, management is an engine for job creation and development.
By setting up new enterprises and successfully expanding existing ones, managers directly create jobs and economic activity.
And it's beyond just mere hiring. They develop human capital through training, through guidance, and by creating an environment where employees can achieve real job satisfaction, meeting both their economic and their social needs.
So management, therefore, is not merely an overhead cost on the books.
No, it is the fundamental engine of both economic and social prosperity.
Now, to perform all of these vital functions and meet these objectives, management organizes itself into a defined structure of authority, which typically features three distinct levels. It's crucial for our listener to understand the roles and priorities of each level because they require entirely different skill sets. Let's start at the top. Top management.
Top management occupies the strategic zenith of the organization.
This level includes the board of directors, the chief executive, like the managing director or CEO, and the general manager. They are the strategic thinkers, the visionaries, and the ultimate accountability holders.
And their functions are almost entirely strategic and external facing. They spend a huge amount of their time analyzing and interpreting changes in the external environment, looking at legislative shifts, economic forecasts, competitor actions.
They're focused 5 to 10 years out.
At least. They are responsible for establishing the long-term corporate plans, the overarching goals, the high-level policies, and the strategies that define the company's entire direction.
They also formally design the broad organization structure. They create the skeleton of the enterprise.
Furthermore, they are the main face of the company to the outside world. They handle the high-stakes public relations, government interactions, and shareholder meetings.
Internally, they appoint the departmental heads and other key executives, and crucially, they coordinate and integrate the activities across different major divisions to ensure synergy.
Making sure sales isn't fighting with production.
Exactly. They provide the overall direction and leadership, and, of course, they have the final authority over the economic outcome, deciding how to distribute profits to shareholders, to reserves, for reinvestment.
Their job is the highest level decision-making under the maximum amount of uncertainty.
Okay, let's move down a level to middle management.
Middle management is arguably the most crucial and often the most challenging tier in the whole structure.
Why is that?
Because they are the essential link. They live between the lofty strategic vision from the top and the granular operational reality on the ground.
This level includes all the departmental and sectional heads, the production manager, the sales manager, the branch manager, the personnel manager. They're the interpreters and the executors. And their primary function is to interpret and explain the strategic plans and policies that were formulated by top management.
So they translate the 10-year vision into a 1-year departmental budget and a 6-month action plan. They make the strategy actionable.
They do, and they are intensely focused on monitoring and controlling the operating performance within their specific sections, ensuring adherence to those plans.
They also have to cooperate extensively among themselves. The production manager has to liaise with the finance manager to integrate departmental activities and prevent internal friction.
And they have a critical developmental role. They must train, motivate, and develop the supervisory personnel who report up to them. They also lay down the necessary detailed rules and regulations for that supervisory tier to follow.
So the middle manager is perpetually squeezed between the high-level demands from the top and the operational realities coming up from the bottom. It's a very tough place to be.
Finally, we get to lower, operating, or supervisory management.
This is the lowest or first level of management, but its importance cannot be overstated. They are the point of execution, directly responsible for output quality and employee morale.
This level includes supervisors, foremen, sales officers, accounts officers, and so on.
And their distinguishing feature is essential. They are the only level of management that deals directly with non-managers. With the rank-and-file workers, they are the front line.
Because they maintain that close personal contact with the workforce, they are fundamentally concerned with the mechanics of the jobs.
They serve as the essential channel of communication. They act as a crucial filter, relaying information and workers' problems up the chain and translating policies down to the floor.
Their functions are tactical and immediate. They're planning day-to-day production within the broader monthly goals set by middle management.
They assign specific jobs to workers, arrange for on-the-spot training, and they issue all the immediate orders and instructions.
So they're fully responsible for the logistics of execution, supervising and controlling the workers' operations, making sure the right materials and tools are available, and maintaining the machinery.
And crucially, they are the hands-on resource for employees. They advise and assist workers by explaining complex procedures and solving problems that arise in real time.
This close relationship allows them to maintain discipline and foster good human relations, which directly impacts morale and productivity.
It really does. So in summary, the three levels form this unified, non-overlapping structure. Top management determines the what and the why.
Middle management determines the how and the who.
And lower management determines the when and the where the work actually gets done.
Our journey through the concept of management has taken us far beyond just a simple job description. We've seen it evolve from the simple activity of getting things done through others to a complex social process.
To a systematized discipline and an evolving profession that expertly integrates people and resources across a three-tiered hierarchy.
We've established that management is creative, it's dynamic, it's universal, and it's purposeful.
And its success is measured by its ability to hit those 8 core, often contradictory objectives, ranging from securing financial health and driving innovation to fostering human capital and ensuring societal value.
The evidence is overwhelming. The success of any human endeavor, whether it's aimed at profit or revolutionary social change, or merely coordinating a complex logistics project, it hinges entirely on the quality of its management.
And this brings us right back to that core tension we discussed. Management is fundamentally both an art and a science.
The science provides the necessary knowledge and the universal principles. It's like the sheet music.
And the art provides the unique skill, the judgment, and the creativity needed for interpretation, the performance itself.
So now that you have this analytical framework, consider this profound imbalance. What happens when organizations overwhelmingly prioritize one over the other?
That's a critical question.
If they prioritize the science, the data, the structure, the universal principles, but they neglect the art, they become rigid, bureaucratic, and brittle. They're unable to adapt to the unpredictable, shifting human element.
Conversely, if they prioritize the art, relying purely on a charismatic founder's intuition and individual skill, but they neglect the science, they become chaotic. They lack structure, discipline, and foundational knowledge.
And they're doomed to fail when that founder eventually steps away.
The successful organization achieves the perfect, dynamic synthesis of both.
You now possess the tools to analyze this managerial imbalance everywhere you look, whether it's in your own career path, in the company whose stock you hold, or in the governmental structure that governs your life.
Right.
You can look at an organization's behavior and immediately pinpoint whether its failure is a failure of its science or a failure of its art.
And that's the real advantage of this deep dive.